My name's Mike Simmons. I am one of the team that is making the film Still the Enemy Within, which will be out in June, which is a film about the miners' strike 30 years on and its relevance to today. And we wanted to put this event on for a number of reasons, really. And one of the things was we shot 60, 70 hours of film with some fantastic characters, and the film itself is going to be about a minute for each hour that we shot. And we thought that although the film is going to be great, there's a whole lot of experience to tell, a whole lot of things that need to be said. And we thought a conference like this is a great way to do it. When we originally thought up the idea of the conference, it didn't seem that there'd be an awful lot to mark the anniversary of the miners' strike. But since then, Thatcher died, and there were some fantastic demonstrations and protests and celebrations in the mining communities. And that's really sparked a big change, I think, that if you look now in the former coalfields, there are little demos popping up, little meetings popping up, all kinds of things popping up. And I think that our film, events like this conference, those protests and demos, the fact that school kids are beginning to look at the history of their communities, all that's going to make for a fantastic year, really, where the true spirit of the miners' strike is going to be remembered. And you know, as a very political person myself, it's going to be turned back on the Tories, and hopefully the crimes that they committed 30 years ago will be brought to drive the fight against them today. So look, we've got a very busy agenda. I've got a few just general points I want to make. It's International Women's Day today, and that's it's great. We've got Women Against Pit Closures so prominent in the programme, because people said 30 years ago, and it's absolutely true, women were the backbone of the strike. We're in a fantastic venue, Rich Mix, at the top of Brick Lane, and the fact that this venue exists is a tribute to the anti-racist struggles that took place over many years. You know, my grandmother lived on Brick Lane when they had to deal with Moses black shirts. I grew up as a young lefty fighting the Nazis at the top of Brick Lane, and just to have this now as a multicultural arts centre is just a testament to what we achieved. And the staff have been absolutely brilliant, and if they tell you to do something today, then please do it, because they're really good. They're really on our side, and they're trying to make the event work. We've got two main sessions running in here and in venue 2, which is on the fourth floor, and we've got cinema running on screen 3, which is on the first floor. It takes a little time to get around, and the sessions are very tight, so be prepared to move quite quickly. There's coffee and snacks in the cafe there. Brick Lane, as I've already mentioned, is if you turn left out the door, and then the first right, there's plenty of places to eat down there. That's the kind of the housekeeping stuff. So back to what we're trying to do. We want to bring together some of my old friends from the strike, some old comrades, people that I met 30 years ago and hadn't seen for until the last year. And we wanted to kind of celebrate both the memory of the strike, some of the politics of the strike, and some of the great things that came out of the strike as well, because it was, in a way, it was the best of times and the worst of times. You know, it was a horrible time. The Tories had run roughshod over British society, taken on union after union, and then they came for the miners. If the miners hadn't stood and fought, we would have been in a much worse state than we are today, and we're in a bad state today. The miners fought bravely for a year at a terrible cost, and Steve will introduce it more, but 10,000 miners arrested, 2 killed on the picket lines, 5 killed scrabbling for coal to heat their homes. Real hardship, real deep hardship. At the same time, you just had this enormous flowering of talent as ordinary people began to do extraordinary things. You know, the Women Against Pit Closures is a fantastic illustration of that. And you don't need me to tell you because you've got people who were involved. So we want to celebrate the survival, the fight, and celebrate how people can change in struggle. And we've got some great sessions. So I'll just very quickly run through. After this session in here, we've got a whole session on women against pit closures. In the venue 2, we've got Paul Mason leading off, who's the former Newsnight, now Channel 4, leading off on Murdoch, the media, and the miners. Then at 2 o'clock, we've got Seamus Milne talking about the enemies within the secret state and the strike, with Penny Green, an old friend of mine who was in Ollerton during the strike. The same parallel session, we've got Culture Shock, When Art and Politics Collided, and a very, very interesting session, I think it will be, with members of Test Department, who are a very interesting band, industrial noise band, who went on tour with the South Wales Miners Choir. So I think today is going to be a difficult one, because everyone's going to want to be in 2 places at once. But make sure you're in one or other, and we'll tell you about some of the other sessions later on. So I'm really lucky to have with me on the platform Steve Hammill, who's a Silverwood miner from South Yorkshire, and Rose Hunter, who's joint chair of Women Against Pit Closures, and North Staff's miners' wives, and they can talk much more eloquently than me. We'll try and get this session. Will finish at 12, so they'll speak. If there's time for questions, we'll take a couple. Steve first.
I've only got 10 minutes, and I could stand here and talk for hours and hours and hours. As anybody that knows me will tell you. But fact is, I'd like to treat this 30th anniversary as a celebration of the fact that we did stand up and we did fight in face of enormous odds. But we have to be quite critical about it. 80s were an absolutely brutal decade, absolutely brutal. To live through it, if you weren't a miner, you were part of other sections of working class. The ruling class were in trouble, and like today, they wanted us, working people, to pay for their crisis. If you're going to go to war, right, you make a plan, and they did, right? It involved beefing up coppers, shackling trade unions, with anti-trade union laws, so on and so forth. I'd like to go into it a bit deeper, but let's rest the day to go in. Either way, I'm going to attempt to run through some of the basics. Why we went on strike, it weren't our choice, right? We have to put that first. Thatcher were determined to provoke miners into a strike, and responding in self-defence is no offence as far as I'm concerned. We come out on strike in March, right? We have lots of days like this where it's lovely and sunny, but your feet are freezing and it's cold. And for the first fortnight, we were doing right well. Nottinghamshire miners were responding to us, and they were coming out. We'd drawn nearly all at Nottinghamshire coalfield out bit, until Thatcher decided to intervene with her boot boys. And they sent them in and separated off from other miners. That led to problems, but while we were in control, while rank and file were in control, we were making our own decisions. We were deciding what targets there were. There were not to worry about as far as secrecy was concerned, because we decided on the spot what priorities were, and then organised and went to do it. There were no involvement at Secret Service, etc., because that had needed thousands, right, to police us on things that we're doing. Either way, everybody knows the story. They come into Nottingham, and we were kept outside. Full control at strike were taken over by national leadership when they declared it, and history plays on. We were on front foot to start with, because we've created problems for them all over. But I think Orgreave was a turning point, right? Orgreave was something to organise. One of the main lessons I picked up during strike were only trusting leadership when they did what we were telling them to do. when we wanted them. But they stitched up agreements all over the place, and Orgreave were part of that. There was an agreement made by Taylor, Yorkshire Area President, right, with IST representatives at Scunthorpe, anchor plant, steel plant. 6,000 tonne a week that agreed to. Some rank and filers went along and talked to ordinary workers in Orgreave, and we said, how much do you need to keep this plant ticking over? He said, what's the mean ticking over? We're actually producing steel here. We were told you'd got a dispensation, you needed 6,000 tonne. Nah. When it comes down to it, they needed 1,500 tonne, right, of coal from Orgreave, right? So obviously there were a contradiction, and we worked on it. We went and picketed at Orgreave, and then it was taken up, and attempt were to make Orgreave, like we said at the time, equivalent to Salter Yates, right? To appeal to the rest of the trade union movement, to attack Tories right where they live, by hitting them in pocket. We wanted to stop steel production in order to have put pressure on manufacturing industries, right, car industry, etc., etc. And allow people in car industries to make a choice, offer us real solidarity and come out in support to bring it to an end. Well, we all know what happened at Orgreave, bloody affair that it were. But I'm not here to reminisce, really, because it were lessons at strike, right, that are carrying me forward today. I mean, we talk about hardship and brutality then, right? If they're a disabled person, if they're a young unemployed person, they're suffering the same kind of brutality from children of Thatcher as we suffered then. And so, therefore, we have to learn some lessons. Lack of solidarity from the rest of the trade union movement lost us that strike. Not willingness at miners, not activities at Women Against Pick Closures. It was that lack of solidarity throughout trade union movement. Yeah, they give us money. Here you go. Well, they watched us wither on vine instead of coming out and taking action, right? That was a problem. There were times when we could have had a victory. You know, when deputies threatened to come out, because they turned round and said to them, they worried them a little bit and said, we're not going to pay you, you're not making enough effort to come in. Oh, they were up in arms, man. All of a sudden, they wanted to strike and all. And if they'd have had a little bit of guts about them and had a little bit more political understanding and nonce, they'd have turned round and they'd come out on strike with us and finished it then. Thatcher weren't this all-powerful, domineering influence, right? Anybody that tells you that's an absolute liar. She was lucky to get in first place, only 40 seats, not like Blair, with his 173, 178 majority, landslide victory. No, she was lucky to get in. Even their own press was saying she was lucky to get in. But the implemented plan that they'd made, right, and has since come out, its reports, etc., it's like common knowledge these days. But the fact were, like a military operation, they implemented the plan. Salami tactics. They took on all weaker sections of working class, demolished them in order to attempt to demoralise strong sections of working class. We could have linked up with dockers. There were every possibility that we could have won that strike. I'll tell you for one, as a married man at the time, with 2 kids, up to my eyeballs in debt, last thing I wanted to do on 3rd of March in 1984 to go out on strike. I must have been an absolute nutter. Like an ice cream man don't come out on strike in winter, right? Coal miners don't come out on strike in summer, right? But common knowledge, but if you'd have understood the preceding era, that decade of brutality started by Labour, cuts and all the rest of it, right? This country was absolutely buzzing. What we had were equivalent to a civil war without sending troops out. It divided society. Clearly in two. Them that supported miners and fighting back, and them that supported status quo and remained passive. I mean, we had some lovely friends, Neil Kinnock for one, absolutely brilliant, absolutely friend at miners, right? Goes over to Russia in September, and money that were coming from Russian mine workers, stop that in one. Says there's no hardship. I mean, he knows about hardship, him. I mean, he's going to be talking about it. I've got a piece of paper here. Right? He's going to be talking about the cheek of the man. No shame whatsoever. He's going to be talking about miners' strike from their perspective. Leave it to us, we'll sort it out. Well, they've sorted it out all right, haven't they? They've given all the money that we had to bankers. They've left us impoverished, like they wanted working class to pay, right, for their crisis in 80s, sorry, right, they're making us pay for it now. I mean, the relevance at miners' strike and struggle that we waged should act as a beacon of light to anybody that wants to fight back now. First thing that I got told when I turned up got told by a fella on Always Picket Line, right, were that we're doing what we should have been doing years ago, just like miners, and that would have a 0 hours contract, right? So it has a purchase today. It did act as a beacon of light. We shouldn't be talking about this dispute in terms of reminiscing and putting our heads down, etc. No, it was a glorious struggle that proved we can fight back, and it's just as pertinent today as it were then. We should be proud of what we did as a class during then, because the United Labour Party and trade union movement, we floated on a sea of solidarity from ordinary men and women, members of Labour Party, members of trade unions, old age pensioners coming and putting the pension books. They kept us afloat. Now that's solidarity and what we needed then. Plus TUC, plus a little bit of support from Labour Party. But now we've got to learn all them lessons again. And so when you get on picket lines, whether it's with students, etc., whether it's what we're doing, I'm in crew for my sins at the moment, and what I'm on with now is tackling what I see as biggest enemy, which is Griffin, and not allowing him to get re-elected. I've been a socialist for all these years, and point is, that acts as another beacon to people that want to listen. Because if I can maintain the principles and maintain that clarity of who the main enemy is and what you do to go about winning, turning our society from what it is now into a society that benefits all and not just the rich minority. I'll finish there because it's giving me notice, but it's a privilege to be here and we should lift us mood. We're not here to be for miserableism and thinking about striking context that, oh, we lost and resting it. I don't know about resting yet. Them 30 years in between strike and now have been absolutely, phenomenal. I've always been skint, I've always been in debt, but I'll tell you something, when my son asked me, what did you do to defend my education? I'll say, I fought. What did you do, right, to make sure I'd got a job? I'll say I fought, etc. And if I go to my grave with only that in my mind and in my mouth, then I shall die a proud fella.
You're not going to get anything about that strike was a defeat, because how could it have been? And thank God, Steve, that you are of the same mind, because some of our own think it was a defeat, and it bloody well wasn't. How could it be? And anyone in here that thinks it's a defeat, we wouldn't be here today. Our kids wouldn't be talking about the strike. Our kids wouldn't be out on the street fighting against education cuts, about care workers getting paid zilch, 0 hours, because that's our legacy when our kids are out fighting as well. And that's what we taught them through that strike, so it wasn't a defeat. So anyone who thinks it's a defeat, there's the door. Now then, there you go. I was born in Scotland. I came down in the 60s with my dad. He'd gone through 7 pits. Shut them all, I think it was the Labour government, and we ended up with Stoke-on-Trent. My dad was born in India, by the way. He was born in Amritsar. And you go through all your life. Well, I was 23 when I was involved in the strike. I got married when I was 18. Well, I got pregnant first. And then I got married, because my mother made me. And she's a Catholic, and we had to get down that aisle, and that was it. I had our Nicola in 1979, and you're right, we didn't want to go on strike. You know, and can I just say something else as well? For all them that watched Billy Elliot, lovely, inspiring story, but we didn't live in houses like that. We weren't rich, but we didn't live in brown houses that looked like they'd come out the 1920s. So, can the media just get it right? We're not all flat cats, pigeon people, and bloody well living in brown and poverty. I mean, we're proud. I mean, the bloody miners were some of the most educated, far-thinking, forward-thinking people. They were educated, they went to Ruskin, they went night school, and the wives weren't all about soup kitchens, you know. But anyway, it just gets on my nerves, and I have to say it. Any road. So, he went out to work one night, he was on night shift. got 2 kids, was pregnant again. I don't know why. And he came back in, and I half expected him coming because he said there's some lads from South Wales that are coming to pick the pit, and I go, right, fair enough. So I knew he'd be back after he'd been to the pub, he'd come back. And he did, come back at 1 o'clock. And I said, does this mean we're out on strike then, Duck? And he said, yeah. I said, all right, fair enough, no worries. I'd remembered 72, I'd remembered 74 with my dad. It was nothing a bit of a strike. Didn't think it was going to last 12 months. Thought it'd last a couple of weeks. What a bloody shock that was. If there's any kids in the audience or anyone that's not liking swearing, I'm really sorry, but it just comes out. Anyway, the other thing I need to clear up is I don't need a ballot to tell me not to fight me for my jobs in my community. If there's a picket line on, the first, and anybody that just wants to get things clear, because it's exactly right what Steve says, there's no grey area, it's black or white. You don't cross a picket line. Ever. Ever. So all you kids, all you potential activists, all you activists, don't get the collie wobbles about shall I shan't, there's picket line on, ballot or not, you don't cross it. And you'll feel better. You'll feel better in yourself. You won't have all the anxiety like the Nottingham miners have got to live with for the rest of their scabbing lives. I feel sorry for them. I feel right sorry for them. Because they never had what we had. They never had that feeling and knowing that you're right. And I'm not right very often, but that 12 months we were right. And Thatcher thought, the women will get the men back to work. Oh, the women will not put up with this because they'll say, you better get back to it. No, no chance. You're not coming into my community and attacking me, my kids, my comrades, my sisters, my family. You're not doing it. And you're never going to do it. And that's what drives me on. That's what drives me on every day. After the strike, I'm going to fast forward 12 months because there was lots happened. And what happening? You know, I had a baby, and I had 2 kids, 3 kids by then, and I thought I better do a bit of something because I hadn't done much picketing. So I went to the Arthur at Digbeth in Birmingham. Anybody here that wants to criticise Arthur, don't do it in front of me. And I know the NUM have got problems, and I know there's a lot of internal stuff going on at the minute, but he was the only trade union leader in my lifetime that's ever stood up for working people. He told us the truth. We didn't follow him blindly. We were doing it anyway. As Steve said, we didn't need a national leadership to tell us what to do, but Arthur led us. In one sense, he led us, and he led us to the right path. He didn't lead us the wrong path. And if more of the TUC had come out and followed Arthur's example, not just then, but even now, we wouldn't be in this flaming mess. We wouldn't be having 0 hours and kids going out to work for nothing. Kids not working. That's more like it. It's disgusting. Oh, I'm getting all rats now. Let me see what I should have been saying. That's out. I've done that. We didn't have any money, so what? It's nice living without money sometimes. We didn't pay a thing. But we had solidarity. We had solidarity with other workers, with the pensioners who used to come up. They used to give us everything. We met people that we'd never dream of meeting. I mean, some of our lads from Stoke went over to Belfast during the strike. Yeah, we heard about the hunger strikes. We heard about body tans. It didn't really mean anything. Not to me. I was 23. I was only interested in babies. We went over there with an open mind. They didn't know which communities they were going into and what they weren't going into. And there was a war going on at that time in the 80s. And we went over, and it was the people of Republican West Belfast that welcomed them, that put the money in the pocket, and they had nothing. They were like us. They had nothing. And it was them that supported us, people like that. And I'm proud to say that. I'm proud to say that that's where we got the support from. I don't want it off people that, you know, the trade unionists that just give you £5 out of the big wage packet and pat you on the head and bugger off. Sorry, kids. I'm proud that it's people like us, people of our own. We're all the same. We're all the same. And that's what we've got to remember. There's people like us out there now, and we just need to get bloody organised. That's the word. Right. So yeah, the legacy of the strike. Finished the strike, went straight down to Wapping, the North Staff Miners' Wives that is, with Bridge. Straight down to Wapping, we were Scargill flags. So what? We cracked a few skulls. Silent night workers, we were on the front line with them. Women of the waterfront, the dockers, we were with them. Any BNP and anti-fascist marches, we were on them. Not just on the marches, but fighting them as well, because we've got a massive problem in Stoke. I hate them. I don't hate many people, but I hate everything they stand for. That's why I'm proud to be here. I'm proud to be next to Britt Lane, and I'm proud to say that we'll fight till my dying breath against fascism and against the BNP and against anybody like that. Where else am I now? We're a solid unit of solidarity. Solid. And you've got to remember that. We're all out doing our own little things. I work all week. I work for the local authority. We're getting hammered at the minute. I think there's care workers in Doncaster, care workers working for Care UK. Absolutely getting hammered. They've been out on strike last week, haven't they? Just this week. There's little pockets of resistance everywhere. And everybody, even if you're not in struggle, you can all play your own part. The kids today, I love them. Them student protests, the best thing I've ever seen since the strike. Be strong, they do the care, and they get stuck in, and that's all we need. That's all we need. So that's our legacy. And if I can pass, I bet I've got finished now, haven't I? If I can. And as a woman, the strike didn't defeat me, and as a woman, it enabled me to come out, and I'm not dead articulate, and I'm dead emotional, but it enabled me to come out and say what I wanted, say what I felt, and that's what the strike did for me. And we are women, in the words of our song, we are women, we are strong. Cheers.